The NVIDIA Shield TV made a great impression when it was released in May of 2015, being the first Android TV box that supported 4K streaming. But how does it hold up 1 year on? The Shield TV is NVIDIA's third product in the Shield series, alongside Shield Portable, the Shield Tablet, and finally making its way underneath our TV screens with the Shield TV. And let me just say, I think they did a great job with all of these devices, and I'm a big fan of the entire range, and I did actually buy each one shortly after they came out. Let me know if you'd like to see a review of either of those. So, let me start out with why I decided to buy the device. Apart from being a fan of the other two devices, it all boils down to my past as a console gamer. When I was younger, I was never interested in PCs and was the biggest PlayStation and Nintendo fan you would find. Unbeknown to me was a world of gigahertz destroying hardware, high-end HD gaming, and of course the freedom to do a lot more on a single device. But my inner child and the nostalgia effect you get when you jump back to playing The Legend of Zelda on your now Nintendo DS, but back then the original N64, just isn't quite there for me. And this first came apparent when trying to play Assassin's Creed Black Flag on my PC for the first time. The game was beautiful, but I just didn't feel as comfortable sat at a desk as opposed to sat in front of the TV. Now this isn't me bowing down to consoles at all, quite the opposite in fact. I much prefer PC gaming, but sometimes you just want to sit back on the couch and go hunting for sharks on that great big 50-inch TV I just bought. And that is why the NVIDIA Shield range initially intrigued me and was ultimately what made me make the purchase. Little did I know I was getting a lot more than what I bargained for. This tiny living room console houses the incredible Tegra X1 Maxwell processor, which is still a great processor today. It is equipped with 3 gigs of RAM and supports 4K playback up to 60 Hz. They come with either a 16 gig or 500 gig variant, the latter obviously targeted at users that plan on installing a lot of content. Dual band AC Wi-Fi and Bluetooth 4.1. On the back of the unit, you'll find one power in port, an HDMI 2.0 output, 1 gigabit Ethernet port, 2 USB 3 ports, a micro USB port, and a micro SD card slot that supports up to 128 gig cards. The unit weighs a measly 654 grams, a far cry away from the typical consoles you normally get. Also included is NVIDIA's console-style controller. So I said I initially bought it for its ability to give me the console experience. The Shield links to the Google Play Store and as such doesn't have AAA titles that you would expect on the usual Xbox One or PlayStation. However, NVIDIA thought of that and actually implemented 2 ways of combating it. Firstly, we have GameStream, NVIDIA's version of Steam in-home streaming, which lets you stream content locally over your LAN as long as you have a GTX 600 series card or better, and it is recommended to have at least an N or AC dual band router if you're using Wi-Fi, but a hardwired connection would be best. It basically mirrors your gaming PC onto your TV, and by using the NVIDIA controller, you can have the console experience on your desktop PC. The other way in which NVIDIA has given you the console nostalgia is through their streaming service called GeForce Now, basically Netflix for gamers. You pay a subscription fee for the ability to stream games to your Shield. The game saves are saved on the servers and linked to your account, so you never lose any data. Seems like a great idea. However, you do need to make sure your internet connection and the equipment on your local network are capable of keeping up, but today that's usually less of a problem. I have to admit, as most tech enthusiasts do, I did buy it for the console experience, but slowly found myself not using it for that purpose, and it eventually just turned into the device plugged into the TV downstairs for streaming from my Plex server, as well as playing music on YouTube and Spotify, which actually was only just added this year. One of my main gripes when the unit first came out was the fact I couldn't install Spotify because I use it regularly, and it was a real disappointment for me. But 1 year on, and they fixed that, so great job NVIDIA. My other problem I had with it was the controller. Now I know they can't have the exact same controller as Xbox, but the one they actually came up with just feels clunky and unnatural in the hand, in my opinion. Again, not a major issue because you can plug in an Xbox controller if you want to. My final complaint is more of a grudge than a full-on complaint, as I understand why they've done it. I have the 16 gig model with no internal hard drive and only expandable via USB storage or SD card. I would have loved the option of being able to add in a 2.5-inch SSD into the unit. Had the 16 gig version been smaller in size to accommodate for the lack of an internal drive, I probably would have less of a problem with it, but again, I understand why they did it. So, how have I got on with my NVIDIA Shield over the past year? Honestly, I love the idea of the device and had used it for a good few months after purchasing it, but as it slowly started to become a means of streaming Plex only, it slowly moved its way downstairs for the in-laws to use as their smart TV, and I ended up with an Xbox One for streaming my Plex and playing games. That being said, while writing this review, I slowly came to the realization that the Shield TV wasn't all I thought it was when it first came out. It was a baby, and in its infancy has slowly got pushed out of my tech arsenal to be replaced by a console, something I wasn't overly happy about at the time. But now the Shield seems to have grown into itself. The GeForce experience has matured massively since it was first released and is more stable than ever, and the GeForce App Store is adding new games regularly. I guess what I'm trying to say is, it's been a year since release, over a year in fact now. But the time has only just come for this device, and anyone thinking about purchasing one of these now is probably the best time to get the most out of it. I know I've made some space for mine back upstairs on my TV. Guys, if you like the video, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel to be in for a chance to win 16 gigs of RAM, of which the winner will be shown after we've reached the 500 subscriber mark. Cheers guys, see you in the next one.